So, dear conference participants, let me present you the presentation of mathematical simulation of package delivery optimization using a combination of carriers. The background. Modern society is so deeply integrated with the online services and especially logistic, which is timely and cost-effective delivery, which is played in an important part. So authors decided to analyze possible ways of improvements in the current field, especially for regions distantly located from popular distribution centers. As we look at the right side, we see the e-commerce platform, which consists of several important units, such as operation and infrastructure, a payment processor, and logistic processor, which includes obviously fast delivery and lazy delivery, and definitely it also touches legal tax processor and financial processor. If we look just at this, at the previous slide, we will see that the delivery path itself, the customer expects it to be like at the upper slide, but the lower slide is indicating how that it really happens. So when the parcels is passing over through several stops, where we see that all these stops are separated from one another by the territory and by the rock or lake or whatever, which makes definitely the delivery as itself pretty complex. And in the same time, the cost is one of the most important parts for the e-commerce solutions. So that's why we decided to analyze how the cost-effective solution can be even more improved when we just not only looking at some specific solutions, but also look into solutions of combination of carriers and vendors. Speaking of the size, the focus is around mid and small businesses living far from big distribution centers, except edge cases like houses, edge rocks, and which have very limited accessibility and actively using e-commerce solution for daily activities fulfillment. Carriers for B2B and B2C can vary, especially if we look at the consumer side. We may see FedEx and UPS, USPS carriers, where a B2B world is more operating with LTL and GTL trucks, which are operating slightly with a different, with slight different mechanisms, but still give very similar discounts if you use them more and more for delivery of your packages. The flow of the process is the following. Simplified scheme of the webshop interaction with online application integrates the following. The client forms the basket at the online service, then the basket gets total and tax calculating along with the total weight of the delivery. Then we identify the shipping origin, where the customer is taking the parcel and when this parcel will get delivered. So along the way, we calculate the amount of points which will be bypassed, and definitely identify if one of the points is really harder to reach. So then most probably there will be one of the most expensive miles, and we will need to find a way how to get a better rate for the end user if we try to optimize the cost. We use online API, which returns the calculated cost, which sums up every single piece of path which is calculating with keeping in mind the % of discount for use of specific carrier. Step 5 is definitely the ordering service, online ordering service form fulfillment and sending the order for package. And the step 6 is delivery schedule. From the research and publications, we used the work of very famous specialists in the field of delivery. Oh, sorry, just need to scroll up once again. Reyes wrote here, which definitely spent a lot of time on shipment providers analysis. So we definitely use the mechanism of analysis of the logistics. The same we applied for a Monte Carlo method in application in the field of transportation, how people emulated the number of series for deliveries. So we reuse their techniques. And we also reuse the functionality which would have been applied by Visser, but we went a little bit further. So we decided not to only emulate the number of orders, but we also decided to optimize the costs. So how we did it, let me scroll a couple of slides. We basically used the combination of networks. We reused the network of fleets, which were used by other companies and also did the delivery, and circulating in different zones, which are not very big, but still deliver packages from point A to point B. In our simulations, what we found, that the orders which we have collected originally in the systems were reflected in 4 different zones. So for these zones, we created generations for urban, rural zone and classified them in 4 networks. And we also calculated a distance zone from the locations which are pretty close to really far areas. We also calculated the distribution across the vendors used. So from the vendor standpoint, we have noticed that originally orders were used by FedEx, vendor trucks, supplier trucks, and also use pickup locations. Many of you may ask why $20 are indicated into pickup location sections. That indicates that the orders which stay in specific location may pay additional cost for storage in that location and may potentially impact the final price. In the second simulation, we decided to remove the pickup locations and calculate only for networks. So here we see the results, and as we see, the deviation of our simulation very slightly deviated from the orders which we also found in the database of the shops we tried to emulate. Then we decided to make another run and think, what if our customers will not use only the national networks, but will use only the truck deliveries. And here we see that for that simulation in the mentioned networks, we found a deviation of from 20 to 22%. So which indicates that potentially what we emulate for specific region definitely falls into the results which we expect. So as we see in the coverage of each network, for the average price with the same weight, we have received a certain percentage per network per each location. So as you see, the emulation which we made was pretty good, except the network R2 for 2 supplier trucks, which is pretty okay, as I can say, because in some regions, definitely not all the vendors are represented in a proper way. The outcomes. The series of simulations performed given a possibility to evaluate the behavior of users in case of absence of usual carriers and taking decisions for cheapest solutions It also demonstrates the option the web shop owner may offer the mid and small size business alternative delivery service where the dropship of vendor's delivery to the final destination or dropship point with minimal cost of additional discount or given to keep the order fulfillment. To apply the current solution in the real industry case, we involve the expansion of the vendor and resellers network sharing the same data model for ordering and street validation. In case of a contemporary ERP system, this should be a pretty, it's a pretty difficult, it should not be a difficult problem. However, it may involve additional third-party service. The paper highlighted the combination of approaches of dropship deliveries and section of different routes for total cost optimization and indicates the behavior of the clients is not always driven by economical circumstances, but also by habits. For future investigations, authors will involve Google Tag Manager data collected just to compare future orders and the mechanisms developed just to see how that will develop in the future. As long as we have the time between the moment of writing the article and when we present it, so we already analyzed the results and we see that currently the trades are pretty similar. Some companies implemented dropship services, definitely have a win-win situation. Thank you for your attention. This is my contact information if you have questions or need any details.